my strategy there is what are people going to use to search for this keyword? In that sense, it's pretty easy. In other sense, you just kind of have to use common sense.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Think Outside the Buy Box, where we bring in experts from Amazon communities all over the world to share knowledge that you might not have heard before. I'm your host, Saddam Hasan, and today we have a very special guest, Bradley Sutton. For those of you who don't know him, he's the Director of Training and Chief Evangelist at Helium 10. By the way, Bradley, you got to explain that one. He helps.
It's because I spread the gospel of Helium.
Spread the gospel.
It sounds so religious, right? But there's actually a story behind that, because I heard it was popularized by was it Guy Kawasaki or somebody who used to work for Apple? Created that kind of position, and then it became kind of trending about 10 years ago or so, and they figured it kind of described what I do, is because it's like an ambassador kind of, but just Evangelist is maybe more of a fancier hipster.
I like the name. It sticks, and you know what? You preach a lot about Amazon.
There you go. There you go.
It goes well with the theme. But here's the thing. Bradley helps hundreds of thousands of Amazon sellers, from beginner to nine-figure sellers, achieve their business dreams. Now, Bradley is a born entrepreneur. You know, he started $1 million aftermarket car parts business when he was only 19-year-old. It's dynamic and maybe just a little bit crazy, but Bradley went on to become a sumo wrestler afterwards, and then an early social media influencer as a Zumba fitness instructor. Bradley, maybe I have so many things to share about you, but let's touch on that. How did you become a sumo wrestler and then a Zumba fitness instructor?
Yeah, it's crazy. Like me, I always just go to extremes, I guess you could say. And I like doing unique things. And whenever I start something, I go all in. So I actually lived in Japan for 3-4 years when I was younger. And so I grew up kind of around, watching TV in Japan, like sumo. And I was always a little bit overweight, when I was younger. So it was kind of a sport that was appealing to me. And so I was always a diehard sumo fan. Like, even when I moved back to the States, I would watch we didn't even have YouTube in those days. So I would have friends in Japan send me the VHS tapes of the sumo tournaments in Japan and mail it to me just so I could watch it. So I was a super fan. And then I didn't realize until I was like in my 20s that they actually had amateur sumo. I was like, I knew I could never become a professional sumo wrestler. So they actually had amateur sumo here in the United States. And so I joined the club and just dedicated myself to that. I went to, U.S. nationals and almost went to world championships, but I was one bout shy of that. MTV True Life documentary series, they even did a special on me because it's weird for an American to do sumo. So with sumo, I kept my weight kind of high, not too high, because there's actually weight class in amateur sumo. So I was like middleweight. So I was still pretty heavy, like 260, but my health got bad. Like they're like, this is not a good healthy weight for you. So like, you need to lose weight. So the way that I used to lose weight was I started doing Zumba, just something completely different. And then I liked it so much. I was like, hey, let me become an instructor in Zumba. So that's how I shifted from sumo to Zumba, which I'm pretty sure there is not one other person in the world who has made that transition.
Yeah, it seems like you've been in the spotlight for quite a while, because even looking at your YouTube videos, I believe you have about more than 30 million hits on YouTube. Is that correct?
Yeah. So my old Zumba fitness videos, I used to do like videos for YouTube that originally went kind of viral, and I just kind of like doubled down on it. And yeah, it has about 35 million views on there for those.
Wow, that is amazing. And obviously now you're doing Helium 10 training videos and exclusive elite workshops. And the thing about Bradley is, during his live presentations and at international and national seller conferences, Bradley has been able to draw on his 20 years of experience to teach other people on how to succeed as an Amazon seller. So in 2 years, before you joined Helium 10,
Mhm.
um, you launched about and optimized about 400 products. So tell me a little bit more about that experience. How did you get into it, and how
Yeah.
did that help you transition into the role that you have right now?
Yeah, I mean, I started working with some business partners who started a new company, and I was kind of like a partner in there, and we all own like 30% of the business, and it turned out to be to be selling on Amazon like phone cases, and one guy, he was in charge of like the manufacturing of it. Another guy was in charge of like the Amazon side, the marketing side, and me, I was only about logistics. So they really didn't like tell me about Amazon. Like I was packaging 500 phone cases a day, doing fulfilled by merchant and managing FBA inventory, but that was it. I didn't really understand how Amazon worked at all. And I ended up splitting from that company. And I was like, man, this Amazon thing seems interesting. So I just spent like, like a whole half year or year just studying, taking courses on Amazon and just trying to teach myself all the important things that my former business partners didn't teach me. And then I was like, "Whoa, this is pretty cool. I could see the power of Amazon." So instead of selling on Amazon, though, I just jumped into being a consultant. So I was a consultant for my former business partners. They really didn't know what they were doing on Amazon either. So they could see that all of a sudden I knew more than them now. So they're like, "Hey, can we hire you back just as a contractor to work on stuff?" And I did that for them, and then I did it for other people I would find on the internet, just helping them launch products. And then I even got a couple full time jobs working for larger corporations where one of my responsibilities was launching their Amazon products. So that's how it happened. All those 400 products I launched, not one of them was a private label product for me. It was all for other companies I work for.
Amazing. And this was how long ago was this? Like, was this 2015,
Yeah, it was like
2016?
2016, 2017, around there.
Okay. Because I remember at that time, we didn't have these extensive tools that we have
Mhm.
today, right? So a lot of the product and launches now are so dependent on these software. How was it to optimize and create a launch strategy back then?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I mean, it was kind of like towards the beginning of like Helium 10. And that's how Helium 10 found me, because towards the end of that, my time as a consultant, I was using Helium 10 exclusively. But before then, I had like 8 different software tools. And one was for, some keyword research, and one was for some launch, and just a million different tools I had to have, because I didn't know about Helium 10 then. But even in the beginning, I didn't have almost any tools. So the crazy thing about it, in those days, Amazon was so wide open that you almost didn't really need tools. Like you could just use stuff like trying to figure out from the autocomplete, what was the best search word. You didn't know about search volume or none of that stuff, but you didn't need it, because it was so wide open. You could almost just do anything, which is why those guys had so much success, even though they didn't know much about Amazon. They were selling like 2,000 units a day of phone cases of all things. Um, Without even knowing what they were doing. That's how it was back then. So nowadays, you can't do that. I mean, like, I don't even know how anybody, unless you're like a huge brand name and everybody knows your brand, like, without using software, like, I don't know how you can stay competitive in today's landscape.
No, completely understand. Now, plus now it's becoming so competitive too. So you do need those
Yep.
extra help from the resources that you get. Now, Bradley, I want to sort of pick your brain on how you
Okay.
sort of go about product research, keyword research, and then slowly move towards branding.
Mhm.
But they're not going to be your traditional questions because,
Cool.
yeah, I feel like you have so much to share, and
I
I'd
don't,
like to
I'm not
touch.
a traditional kind of person, if nobody has figured that out yet. So I like it. We're on the same page here.
Perfect. Yeah. And even watching the Project X, there were so many different new techniques that you guys sort of touched on. So going to product research now, let's say if we're launching a new product, it's
Mhm.
becoming so competitive. All the software are sort of giving a same trend of the products, and everyone's launching that. So how do you stand out from the crowd? Maybe if you can share like a very trending technique or a new technique that's not being used so much by the new sellers.
Well, I mean, first of all, in my product research stage, that is something I look out for, because if I see that everybody's launching that, I'm just going to go to something else. I'm not going to try and compete with them, because there's so much opportunity on Amazon where I don't have to force myself into a box of I have to launch this, because it has high search volume or something. No, I'm only going to launch something if I think I'm going to dominate right from the get-go, because like either the other competition are not good. So like one thing you mentioned, Project X, one thing that I look for is even if I don't see it much on Amazon, like let's say it's some new thing that I found, using a tool or just walking around. I have this idea and it looks like on Amazon, wow, this is wide open. Like there's no competitors. What I'll do is I'll go and do secondary research like on Alibaba, not looking for a factory, but using that same keyword. And if I see it like all over Alibaba, I run away from that product because yeah, maybe it's not on Amazon yet, but the only way it's on Alibaba everywhere, millions of factories have it, is because a bunch of Amazon sellers must have just ordered that product or they know that it's like a big trend. And so in about 2, 3, 4, 5 months, it's going to be completely saturated. So that's I don't want to be competing with other people. Now let's say I've been selling for a few months already, and yeah, people see my success, like the egg tray we did on Project X. We were the only ones with a wooden egg tray. Now there's like maybe 10 different ones with almost the exact same thing. So they obviously were watching Project X and copied what we're doing, but our sales really haven't dropped. Like since we were first to market with that, we've got the most reviews. We have a really great listing. In the beginning, I actually didn't worry about A+ content and stuff like that because again, we had no competition. So now that I saw some players coming in, what I did was I just registered for that brand to have A+ content. So that'll be my next phase. Now I'm gonna like make. In other words, I'm always trying to stay a step ahead of the competition, not just with my listing, but just the product itself, the features, and the listing optimization and the keywords. I want to stay ahead of the trend. So everything you're trying to have a little leg up on the competition.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Staying ahead of the curve, you're adapting very early. So what you're saying is you catch the trend before it even becomes a trend by looking at Alibaba and all those platforms where it's the supply side of things and not the demand side.
Yeah. Yeah, I
That
mean, and
is,
for the demand, it's important though too. I mean, you mentioned that trying to catch a trend before you can do that on like Etsy and Pinterest. That's how we found that egg tray. Everybody on Amazon at the time had plastic or metal egg trays, but we saw on Pinterest, which is ahead of Amazon trends, we saw that wait a minute, everybody who types in egg tray on Amazon, all they see is plastic ones, but on Pinterest, which is ahead, it's a bunch of wooden ones. So that's how we had that idea to go the wooden one. So yeah, like you said, it's really important to stay ahead of the curve, as it were.
makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, so now you have a product, and the next phase becomes differentiating the product so that you stand out from your competition. Do you have any tips you can share on differentiating it?
Just I use like for example, uh, Helium 10 Review Insights used to be called Review Downloader. So I'll take a look if there are existing competitors. I'm gonna go look at maybe 5 or 6 of them if they're out there, and what are people complaining about? About it. I gotta fix that in mind. What do people love about the competitors? I gotta make sure mine has that. If it's a newer niche, I'm gonna go and do that same thing on Etsy. If I see some ones on Etsy, I'm gonna go look in the reviews on Etsy. What do people look for? Like I'm also going to look at maybe what people are buying together. What's frequently bought together with the product. Maybe there's something that's a simple bundle I can do that just uh, it saves a step. Everybody's buying an egg tray together with I don't know, an egg basket or something. Well, is there a way that I can just offer both for a reasonable price and kill two birds with one stone? Um, I try not to be too different. Like, I think there's a line that has to be drawn of what's actually working and just trying to be so different that you might miss the mark and now it backfires. In other words, if everybody is obviously loving red egg trays. I don't know why I keep calling it egg trays, but red egg trays. I'm not gonna go do a pink one just to be different. And yeah, of course, that's gonna stand out on the page. But what if there's no demand for a pink egg tray? It doesn't matter that I'm standing out. I'm gonna stand out, and people will just look at that like, "What an idiot who's making a pink egg tray." I'm not gonna buy that. Who would buy that thing? So in that sense, standing out or being different doesn't really matter. So the important thing is when you are trying to differentiate, you number one, if something's not broken, don't try and fix it. So look at what's working for the competitors as far as, image themes and features, and you don't have to try and do something opposite. Work with that as a starting point, and then just see how you can tweak it to make things a little bit better, as opposed to trying to do the opposite of what your competitors are doing.
Got it. So you don't want to completely shock the system, but just
Mhm.
learn what the customers want and sort of include that in your
Sure.
either your bundle or whatever you're selling. No,
Yep.
that makes sense. Okay, so moving on to then keyword research, you said something where we're talking about niches, right? Like let's
Yep.
say a wooden X-ray. Sometimes you have products on hand that are completely different than what is currently being sold in the market.
Yep.
So how do you identify the main keyword or the seed keyword when there's a market that does not have the same products as you're launching?
Yeah. So what we did on the egg tray, that example was, yeah, there wasn't really a lot of wooden ones. So we looked at just the best selling regular egg trays, which are the plastic ones, the metal ones, and what were the main keywords there, because our goal was, those are the hero keywords. Wooden egg tray maybe didn't have hardly any searches. So what we did, number one, was we took those main keywords like, egg holder, egg tray, egg storage, egg organizer, those kind of things. And then we're like, okay, that's our end goal, is we'd love to compete with all the plastic and metal ones there, because our reasoning is, these don't exist on Amazon right now, but these are what people want, because this is what we see on Pinterest and Etsy. So maybe it's just a matter of showing people our listing on page one, and they'll end up buying it. It's like they didn't even realize they wanted it, but as soon as they see it, one like, whoa, that's what I want. So what I did was, I took those main keywords, and then I just added wooden or wood or egg holder wood on it, and those were the main ones at the beginning. I concentrated like on for launch and PPC, because there's zero competition, and it was like, top of page one within a week almost on those kind of keywords. But what happens is, as you get traction with these longer tail keywords, like wooden egg holder with 300 searches a month, as opposed to egg holder with, 10,000 or something. Every time you're getting activity on the longer tail keywords, it's not going to give you equal bump on the main keyword, but it does give you a little bit of a bump, so that now when you're ready to try and make a big push for that egg holder keyword or egg tray keyword, you're not having to start from page 7. Like maybe you're already on page 3, or something like that, because of the work you're doing on the longer tail keyword. So that's kind of my strategy there, is what are people going to use to search for this keyword? In that sense, it's pretty easy. In other sense, you just kind of have to use common sense. Like, for coffin shelf, I'm not going. Maybe there's not that much competition out there, so I'm looking like, which keywords other than just coffin shelf am I going to look at? Well, I'm not going to use egg tray for coffin shelf. So I might say, well, this is kind of gothic. I found it on Pinterest under the gothic decor board or gothic decor category in Pinterest. Maybe gothic decor could be a keyword, and then you test it like in PPC, and then if it works, if you start getting some good click through rate in PPC, hey, that's probably a keyword that obviously has significance to your buyer. If they're searching for that keyword and they click on your ad, whether they buy it or not doesn't matter. If it's something that has significance, they're going to click on it. So I think that's another way to find new words that you might not have known are relevant.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Looking at the click through rate helps you kind of identify whether the keyword is relevant or not. And like you said, sometimes you don't have to change the keywords. It's the same demographic, same audience, but basically they just don't know what they want, and if they see it, they'll be prompted to make the purchase. So good. Okay, talking about keywords again. I see lately a lot of listings going down, and most of them, the issue is very similar, where they have put in keywords that are either restricted or prohibited from use.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, there is no long list or an exhaustive list that Amazon publishes. So how do you approach that? How do you find out keywords that you should not be including in the listing?
There's just different rules of thumb. I mean, it would be great if somehow somebody could uncover the magic list of keywords that are forbidden by Amazon, but some of it is just common sense. All right, if it's a brand name, don't use it. It's explicitly against Amazon terms of service to use other competitors' brands in your listing or trademark words. Like sometimes it's not a brand name, but somebody has a trademark. You shouldn't use that. Things that have to do with that are Amazon words, like this is Amazon's choice. Like don't put that in your listing. If it's a drug related keyword or profanity or adult product related, like eh, things like this. Some of it is trial and error. You're not going to know, but I would say 85% of the time, just common sense should help you guys out with knowing, because yeah, you sometimes have enough of the wrong keyword in there. Here's an example. I was doing a hemp pain cream.
Mhm.
Well, I didn't realize
CBD.
arthritis is a forbidden keyword. Like you cannot say that it helps with arthritis pain because it's very few products that actually have that available if you're FDA certified for that. Now, as it turns out, this pain cream was FDA certified to be able to advertise for arthritis relief. But I had to go through this long process to prove that, because there's just certain claims that Amazon doesn't want you to make, because it might put them on the hook for liability. So if you're ever in doubt, easiest thing to do, if you have any doubt at all, open up a case before you put it in your listing. Seller Central, hey, I wanted to use this word in my listing. Is there anything wrong with that? And then even if they do get you, suspended or something, just say, well, hey, what's going on here? I have a look at this case number. You guys said it was okay. So that's what I would suggest doing.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And especially in supplements, you have so many different
Sure.
claims that can go down. So yeah, asking Amazon before doing it is a really good idea. What about holiday seasons? So you know, Helium 10 has some great tools for keyword research, and when it comes to holiday season, we have to tweak the keywords a little bit. Let's say if it's Father's Day or if it's Christmas time. Do you have any specific strategy that sellers can use to come up with those keywords and put them in the back end or the front end?
What I would do is, for those sellers who have brand, and this has nothing to do with Helium 10, obviously, but for those sellers who have brand registry, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look back. Oh, I guess you could use Helium 10. I'm going to look back with Helium 10, like who are the top sellers like last year or something in December or in November or whatever, or around whatever holiday that you're trying to look at, and then what are the products that were really selling the most, and then I'm going to look at brand analytics, at least so I have some visibility on, hey, during this period of time, during this holiday season, what were they dominating the clicks and sales on? And then I'm going to try and make sure that this year I'm going to incorporate those keywords into my listing, because a lot of times those keywords that work in November and December, you could get like maybe 5, 10 sales a day from it, but the rest of the year you're getting zero. So if you're just basing your research on what's happening right now in July, you're going to miss all those keywords that are important during the Christmas season. So you got to use the tools available, such as the brand analytics, in order to be able to look at that historical data.
That is such a powerful tool. I love using brand analytics too, as well. Okay, so we've covered product research. We've covered a little bit of keyword research. Now, Bradley, talk to me a little bit about branding outside of Amazon. You're someone who is always in the spotlight. You're very active on social media. How can people or sellers leverage social media in order to create their brand and then also have success on Amazon?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important, and I say that. And for our Project X items, we haven't done one thing on social media just because we don't have the time to do it. But if you're planning, if you're not on Amazon, just trying to just do the latest trend and latest fidget spinner that is just going to be hot for 6 months, and then you're just going to move to a garlic press, and then you're going to move to a neck pillow or whatever. I mean, if you actually have some like long-term branding strategy, I mean, you've got to leverage an outside website, Instagram, Facebook, and start building a community. Because here's the thing: for those of you who don't sell on Amazon, it might seem like a foreign concept to you, but you do not own your customers. They're not your customers when you sell to somebody on Amazon. And that concept is like, what? What do you mean we don't own our customers? They're my customers. I sold to them. No, That's not how Amazon views it. They don't want to show you the address of that customer. They don't want to show you their phone number. You cannot message them ever again asking, with any kind of promotional thing like, hey, I just launched a new product. Why don't you check it out? Or, hey, would you like to save 10% on your next, or you can't do any of that stuff because that's all Amazon's customers. So the only way to really build an audience that you can market to is by building your off Amazon presence. And the easiest way is through social media. So, create an Instagram um, about your brand, but even before then, maybe create an Instagram around your niche. Like if it's the coffin shelf, maybe you're going to create a gothic decor, for you Instagram page, and it's just going to be a lot of random, gothic things that gothic people are interested in, and you build that audience out, and then every now and then you can throw in, a picture of your product or something. But um, that is the absolute only way to go uh, if you want to start being able to market to your own customers, because the end goal of what you might want to do is you might want to have a Shopify, later, because it's, Shopify is not taking 15%, like Amazon is. Maybe you want to get in brick and mortar. Maybe you want to get in like Walmart stores. Well, without an outside Amazon presence, it's really hard to convince, retailers to carry you or to take you seriously if you're just an Amazon brand. So yeah, from the beginning, I highly recommend trying to build your off Amazon presence.
Got it. And then what would be your suggestions for them? What kind of posts should they create, and how do they engage their audience?
Yeah, it can't be just nonstop post about your own product or something. I mean, what you use is the same thing I tell people about Amazon. You got to think like a buyer. All right. Sometimes when we're selling on Amazon, we get into thinking too much about metrics and relevance and search volume. There's no buyers who care about that stuff. They're like, hey, does this product look good, or what am I interested in? And think back to who you follow on social media. I mean, do you follow just a brand who only post their products and advertisements to their products? No, I mean, that's not interesting. You follow things that people who have really cool pictures or maybe inspirational quotes, like you like to have those, and you like to share it. So what you need to make your customer avatar. All right. Like, hey, my customer avatar is Saddam, who's an Amazon expert and aspiring music producer. And, he has a sister, Leilama, who's annoying to him sometimes. I mean, like you go really in depth, right, on your customer avatar. And then what you do is you build your social media presence based on what would be appealing to Saddam. Like what would Saddam like to see in social media? Like maybe he wants to see a post, once a week about, what's the latest EDM trend, or maybe he wants to see a funny post about, guys who do practical jokes on their sister to get them off their back or something. Whatever. You build this whole persona, and then it's just organically going to happen. You don't even have to use paid advertising for this. If you start putting out content that is valuable, educational, or just funny, or just, engaging with your customers, organically, they're going to start tagging their friends, and now all of a sudden you're going to build your followers. And man, that's really my goal for 2020 or 2021, to continue with the Project X, because we've already gotten so far. We're selling like 30, 40 coffin shelves a day. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I don't understand how
That's amazing.
how that many people want a coffin shelf, and that's with zero outside advertising. So it'd be a great study to see how can we increase that by building building a community around the concept of these Gothic items.
Got it. Now one of the very good tips that you shared here is thinking back how you got hooked to some of the other channels. Let's say you're on Instagram. Who do you follow? Why do you follow them? So
Sure.
that exercise is really important. It gives you a lot of insight into what your end audience would be thinking about when they're subscribing to your channel. Okay, so this is more for the organic boost outside of Amazon, right? When we talk about paid promotions, usually people are either thinking about pay-per-click,
Mhm.
or external Facebook, Google ads, or maybe ranking manipulation. What is your take on leveraging some of the other things? Let's say influencer marketing or email marketing, buying out lists, or even like blogging about the products channel some of the traffic back to your Amazon listing. What would you maybe try out for your next Project X session?
I would try and do just as much as possible, because the reason, whatever you have time for, whatever is a good ROI. Now, where you draw the line is, you don't want to spend 12 hours a week writing blogs about your product if that now takes away, now you have no time to manage your PPC or something like that. So depending on how much bandwidth you have, or how many people on your staff are, you want to do as much as possible off of Amazon, because Amazon loves outside traffic and they love diversified outside traffic. If all your products or if all your traffic is just coming from on Amazon, hey, that's great, but Amazon's not too thrilled about that. But if they see a whole bunch of social media traffic, coming from Pinterest, coming from Instagram, coming from Facebook, Amazon loves that. You're going to get, boost in the algorithm because of that. And so how do you do that? Well, yeah, maybe you have a blog that links back. Maybe you hire somebody, an influencer who's relevant, like Coffin Shelf. Like, maybe I'm going to go look at who's a top gothic makeup person or something like that. Hey, can I pay you $200 to make a video on how you put your gothic makeup into this Coffin Shelf and how it goes with your gothic decor in your house? A perfect example of this is when like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I used to sell with that company phone cases, and we had ordered 500 of these clear, transparent phone cases, that these TPU plastic cases. I think you can probably picture that. But when we got them, they all had like glitter in them, infused, and we were like, "What in the world, factory? What are you guys doing? Why would you put Why would you put glitter in these phone cases? They're ruined." So we're like, you know what? Instead of selling on Amazon, let's just throw it up on eBay and let's just try and get rid of them. So we were selling like one every 5 days, and then all of a sudden we started selling like 75 a day for like 4 days in a row, and we're like, what in the world is going on? How in the world are we selling 75 of these terrible phone cases? And so we just started emailing the people who bought it, like, hey, thank you for your purchase, but by the way, why are you buying this? Why are you buying this? Or how did you find out about it? And they all were saying, oh, our favorite YouTuber did an episode on what's on my iPhone, and it looked really cute, so we all bought it. We didn't pay this influencer at all. We didn't do any affiliate link or anything like that. This was just something she went and found our phone case on eBay and bought it, paid full price. And she was just doing a vlog about, like, hey, this is the apps I have on my iPhone, and here's my phone case that I'm using. And everybody, because they're like, whoa, whatever she says, we love, they all wanted to do the same thing. And just, we sold out of those 500 phone cases in like 2 or 3 weeks, when we thought it was just a throwaway item. So that just shows you the power of sometimes influencer marketing, where if you find somebody really relevant who has a very engaged following, it could be the make or break for your product.
That's amazing. I think that's like the dream for every seller, is for one of their products to go viral on maybe a TikTok trend. They're dancing and using it. Can bring tons of traffic to that. So, okay. Bradley, one last question. And this is based on a recent quote, a really good quote. And the quote was that products don't fail, sellers fail. So you've looked at so many tons of different products throughout your years of experience. What are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 list of ingredients that you think are important to make a product or an Amazon business successful? What does it come down to?
I mean, it starts at the beginning of your product research. You got to be looking for the right things. There's people out there who they base their next product on what they're passionate about, or what they love, or some brand new invention, and they haven't validated demand. They haven't validated competition. So number one is, in product research, you have got to find something that you know or have a good idea that there's existing demand for, but that the competition is either non-existent, or the ones that exist are so bad that you can easily overtake them and take over their market share. Number two is, you got to have the right keywords for your listing. All right. And don't be using don't even use Helium 10 to just click a few buttons and then, hey, whatever comes up, that's what I'm going to do. I don't care what tool you're using, whether it's Helium 10 or anything out there. You've got to take that extra step and, like, really analyze the keywords. Are they relevant to your listing? No computer algorithm is going to give you some score and say this keyword is good or this keyword is bad. You've got to make sure that you are choosing the right keywords, because at the end of the day, that is 80% or 90% of how customers are going to find your product is through the keywords. All right. If you're not indexed for a certain keyword, it doesn't matter if it's searched for a million times, your product never has a chance to show up. You got to optimize your listing in a way that's not so focused on just what you think the Amazon algorithm wants, but what your buyer wants. Make buyer attractive listings, and then get out of the mindset of set it and forget it. You know, sometimes people get in the mindset of a laptop lifestyle, or I'm going to launch a product on Amazon and now I can just be on the beach every day for the rest of my life, and I'm just going to get recurring revenue, from Amazon. No, that's not how Amazon works. If you are not constantly monitoring the trends, tracking your markets, trying to see who's coming into your market, trying to track the trends of keywords. Hey, sometimes the way people search for products change over time. Like, it's not this is the same keyword. People's buying behavior changes. You have got to be keeping up to date with all those things. And that's basically the formula. I mean, it sounds pretty easy, but you'd be surprised. 90% of sellers, they get at least one or two or three of those things wrong. And if they get it wrong, guess what? You still could succeed on Amazon. But what's happening is your chances for success are a lot less when you're not considering each and every one of these factors.
Of course, no, I completely understand, and these are the basic fundamentals, but they're very insightful as well, because it chases down who your buyers are, but and you're also competing with your competition. So you have to stand out, you have to be ahead of the curve, but also know exactly who your audience is and what they want, as opposed to being married to an idea and then
Yep,
executing and failing it.
exactly.
Sounds good. Well, Bradley, I think that was it for today. For those of us who want to find you on social media, how do they get in touch with you?
The best way to find me, I actually just started this a couple of weeks ago, where I started like a business. It was so weird. For the longest time, I tried to use my old Zumba Instagram and just have my Zumba people on there, and then the Helium 10 and Amazon world. And it was too
We're
much of
probably
a
getting
contrast. So I was
confused.
like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and make like an Amazon related Instagram. So you guys can find me at H10 Bradley. No spaces, H10 Bradley, Bradley. And that's the best way to find me on social media.
Sounds good. And I'll put the link in the bio section as well.
Cool.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Bradley. It was a very valuable episode, and looking forward to sharing this with the audience.
Awesome. It was great to be on here.
Thanks a lot.